Tonight, two of history's greatest minds meet to answer one timeless question. Why does the modern mind never feel at peace anymore?
Every morning, millions wake up already tired before the day has even begun. They haven't solved a crisis. They haven't faced a difficult conversation. Some haven't even left their bed. Yet something already feels heavy. They reach for their phone before they reach for themselves. Within minutes, their mind belongs to deadlines, opinions, headlines, messages, expectations, and comparisons. Then they ask why peace feels impossible. I don't believe the world steals your peace. I believe you surrender it little by little every time you allow something outside your control to command what happens inside your mind. A restless mind is not created in a single day. It is trained over years to obey distraction instead of reason. If you want peace, then stop negotiating with every thought that enters your head. Learn to decide which thoughts deserve your attention, because attention is the true ruler of your life.
Not because their bodies are exhausted, but because their minds never came home. You believe they lose peace when they wake, but I believe they lost it long before that moment.
They have been taught that every problem requires another thought, another plan, another effort. So the mind never rests because it believes resting is dangerous. Look at nature. The trees do not hurry to grow. Rivers do not struggle to reach the sea. Clouds do not compete with one another. Yet all arrive exactly where they belong. Human beings alone believe that constant mental effort is proof of wisdom. The more they chase peace, the further it seems to move away. Peace is not hiding from them. It is simply buried beneath thousands of unnecessary thoughts. Before you ask how to calm the mind, ask why it has become so crowded in the first place.
Your words are beautiful, Lao Tzu, but I fear they may comfort people without strengthening them. Nature indeed flows effortlessly, but human beings possess reason, and reason demands responsibility.
We are not rivers. We make promises. We raise families. We build civilizations. We face injustice, loss, temptation, and fear. If someone insults you, your first reaction is rarely peaceful. If tragedy enters your life, serenity does not appear on its own. The mind must be trained, just as the body must be trained. A soldier does not wait until battle begins to learn discipline.
Likewise, a peaceful mind is prepared long before suffering arrives. I do not seek control because I fear life. I seek discipline because life is unpredictable. Without inner order, every unexpected event becomes another master over your emotions.
And yet I wonder, Marcus, whether what you call discipline sometimes becomes another form of resistance. A person can spend years trying to master every emotion, every desire, every fear, only to discover they have become exhausted by the struggle itself. The tighter they grip the mind, the more restless it becomes. Have you ever tried to hold water tightly in your hands? The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes. The mind behaves much the same way. It is not an enemy waiting to be conquered. It is a current waiting to be understood. You teach people to stand firm against the storm. I ask why they insist on standing where the storm is strongest. Sometimes wisdom is not resisting every wave. Sometimes wisdom is learning which waves never needed to be fought at all.
Then let me ask you this. Suppose a man loses his career after 20 years of faithful work. His family depends on him. His confidence disappears overnight. Bills continue to arrive. Fear enters his home before hope does. Should he simply observe these emotions as passing clouds? Should he wait for the current to carry him somewhere better? No. He must rise before his fear rises. He must remind himself that external fortune has never defined internal character. His position may be gone, but his integrity remains untouched unless he abandons it himself. Peace cannot depend upon success because success belongs to chance as much as effort. Peace must depend upon virtue because virtue cannot be taken by anyone except its owner. That is why I insist upon discipline, not because life is easy, but because life refuses to be easy.
And I would ask that same man a different question. Before losing his career, had he unknowingly made that career his identity? If so, then his suffering did not begin the day he was dismissed. It began the day he believed his worth depended upon a title. You speak of protecting character. I speak of releasing attachment. They appear different, yet notice where they point. When a person clings to success, failure becomes unbearable. When a person clings to certainty, change becomes terrifying. The world constantly changes its form. Only the human mind demands that it remain the same. We call this desire security, but often it is fear wearing respectable clothing. True peace does not come because life becomes predictable. It comes because we stop demanding that life obey our expectations.
Your argument forces me to admit something. Many people misunderstand Stoicism. They imagine it as emotional suppression, as though peace means becoming cold, distant, untouched. That has never been my intention. A disciplined mind is not a lifeless mind. It feels grief, love, disappointment, joy, and uncertainty just as deeply as anyone else. The difference is that it refuses to become a prisoner of passing emotion. Discipline is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to surrender judgment. Perhaps where we differ is this. You begin with releasing attachment, while I begin with strengthening character. Yet I cannot deny that character itself weakens whenever it becomes attached to things it cannot keep.
And perhaps I must refine my own words as well. Many people misunderstand Taoism as passivity, as though flowing with life means never acting, never deciding, never standing against injustice. That is equally false. Water appears soft, yet over time it shapes mountains. It does not conquer through force. It transforms through harmony with reality. I do not ask people to abandon responsibility. I ask them to abandon unnecessary struggle. There is a profound difference. One who acts from clarity can accomplish much with little effort. One who acts from fear can spend a lifetime exhausted while believing they are making progress. Peace is not laziness. Peace is action that no longer comes from inner conflict.
Then perhaps the restless mind of our age suffers from two illnesses at once. One is the refusal to accept what cannot be changed. The other is the refusal to change what can. Some surrender too easily and call it acceptance. Others fight everything and call it strength. Neither discovers peace. A wise person must know where effort belongs and where surrender becomes wisdom. Perhaps discipline without acceptance becomes endless tension. Perhaps acceptance without discipline becomes endless drifting.
Then we have finally reached the place where our paths meet. You guide people to build an unshakable inner foundation. I guide them to stop fighting the ground beneath their feet. You teach them to master their responses. I teach them to release unnecessary resistance. Different language, different symbols, different roads. Yet the destination has always been the same. Peace was never waiting in a quieter world. It was waiting for a quieter relationship with the world. Whether someone arrives there through disciplined reason or effortless awareness matters less than the realization itself. The mind does not become peaceful because life stops moving. It becomes peaceful because it finally moves with life instead of against it.
Then let us ask a question few people are willing to ask. If the mind never feels at peace anymore, who is creating the disturbance? Most people immediately point outward.
They blame the economy, their job, their family, the government, social media, the endless stream of bad news. I do not deny that these things influence us, but influence is not the same as control.
Two people can stand in the same storm, lose the same opportunity, hear the same criticism, and yet leave with entirely different minds. Why? Because events shape circumstances, but judgment shapes experience. Every day, millions surrender their peace to strangers they will never meet, to opinions they never asked for, and to futures that have not yet arrived. They rehearse tomorrow's disasters while ignoring today's opportunities. They relive yesterday's failures until they become their identity. The mind becomes exhausted because it carries three lives at once. The past it cannot change, the future it cannot predict, and the present it barely notices. If you truly wish for peace, stop asking life to become lighter. Ask your mind to become wiser.
Your observation is true, Marcus, but notice where your words still place the burden. You ask the mind to become wiser, stronger, more disciplined. I ask something simpler. What if the mind is already exhausted from constantly trying to become something else? Since childhood, people are taught to improve without end. Be smarter, be richer, be more attractive, be more successful. Even peace becomes another achievement to chase. They meditate to become better. They exercise to become better. They read books to become better. Improvement itself quietly becomes another prison. Have you noticed that the happiest moments in life rarely happen while chasing them? They appear unexpectedly. Watching rain fall, hearing a child's laughter, sitting beside someone you love without speaking. In those moments, nothing is being improved, yet nothing feels missing. The modern mind suffers because it has forgotten how to simply exist without constantly measuring itself. Sometimes the deepest wisdom is not adding another philosophy to your life. It is removing one unnecessary thought from your day.
Listening to you, I realize our disagreement was never truly about peace. It was about the road that leads there. I have always believed that the mind becomes free when it learns to govern itself, instead of being governed by impulse. But perhaps I have spoken so often about discipline that some people mistake it for constant struggle.
That was never my intention. Discipline is not a war against yourself. It is an act of self-respect. It is choosing not to hand your peace to anger, fear, comparison, or the opinions of strangers. A calm mind is not built because life finally becomes fair. It is built because you decide that your character will no longer rise and fall with every changing circumstance.
The world will continue to surprise you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Time will take everything you love, eventually. But there remains one place where freedom is always possible. The way you choose to meet each moment. That choice has always been the beginning of peace.
And hearing you, Marcus, I realize many people misunderstand my words as well. They think surrender means giving up, when in truth, it means giving up the unnecessary fight. The river reaches the ocean not because it overpowers every obstacle, but because it never forgets its nature. Human beings lose peace because they spend their lives trying to become someone they were never meant to be. They resist change, chase certainty, compare journeys, and cling to identities that life has already asked them to release. When they finally loosen that grip, they discover something surprising. Peace was never missing. It was simply covered by endless resistance. The mind does not need to possess every answer. It does not need to predict every tomorrow. It only needs to return again and again to the reality of this moment. There is immense strength in softness, just as there is immense wisdom in stillness. The universe has never been rushing, yet nothing it creates arrives too late.
Then perhaps we have been describing the same mountain from opposite sides. I began with discipline because I feared people would become slaves to their impulses. You began with surrender because you feared they would become slaves to their own resistance. I taught them to strengthen the mind. You taught them to soften the heart. Neither is complete without the other. Strength without gentleness becomes hardness. Gentleness without strength becomes fragility. A truly peaceful life requires both: the courage to act when action is needed, and the wisdom to let go when control is impossible. Then let this be the lesson for anyone whose mind has forgotten how to rest. Do not spend your life trying to silence every thought, because another thought will always come. Do not spend your life trying to control every outcome, because life will always remain unpredictable. Instead, become the kind of person who is no longer carried away by every passing wave. Whether you call that discipline or harmony matters very little. The destination is the same: a mind that no longer fights reality, a heart that no longer fears change, and a life that finally moves with the rhythm of existence instead of against it. One path begins with discipline. The other begins with surrender. One teaches you to govern your inner world. The other teaches you to flow with it. Different roads, same destination. The mind finds peace not when the world finally becomes quiet, but when it no longer depends on the world's noise or silence to remain at rest.